Hello everybody. Today we're going to do Dalbot. Kind of promised it to you in one of these videos how easy it is to make, and reality of it is you need some rice. You can use the green split peas or the yellow in a can. This one here's the 14.5 ounce, just like a regular size can of the tomatoes. You can do it with just the tomatoes if you don't like onions. This one's got the sweet onions in it. You can use garlic or olive oil, a bunch of different ways of doing it. I'm going to do it in the pressure cooker, kind of show you how it's done with the old school pressure cooker. I know a lot of people, they use the Instapot. We got one of them too. I'm not throwing crap on the Instapot. I just like the old school method of pressure cookers. Probably for the one reason, it's a good pot. You can use it for almost anything else without the lid on it. I'm thinking this is a 6. I think it's a 6 quart because I've got an 8 quart, and the 8 quart has handles on it on both sides like this. Instead of that big grab handle, it's got like 2 smaller ones on either side. It's a little bit bigger, and I think that's the 8 quart. Yeah, like the Presto, just because you can get parts that are easy to find for it. You can get them, you know, you can just put in their number, the number of the pot that you've got, and a bunch of parts will come up. And really the only parts that you could ever need to replace is the weight on the top. I could see how you could lose that. And then on the lid right here, there's this rubber gasket. This is a newer style. Some of the older school ones, you have to push that into a groove, but these just come in and out real easy for washing and whatever. But anyway, you can put this on a Camp Chef stove or a propane stove. Power goes out. I guess, you know, it's like kind of hence what's going on in Texas right now. You know, they're in ice storms and all kinds of crazy stuff's going on down there in Texas. So, you know, if you had some kind of a barbecuer with a propane stove on the side of it, or if you just bought a little propane stove that took the little bottles or whatever you got, you know, you could still cook up a big batch of food and feed a lot of people. And, you know, it's cheap, and it doesn't, it goes a really long ways. Anyway, Dalbot, I think it's D-A-L, I want to say B-O-T-T. I'm probably butchering that, but anyway, we're going to go through it and make a batch today. I'll even do the rice again, just so it's all on one video. So hang in there and I'll get the rice rinsed and we'll get going. Okay, so this line right there on this, I don't know if it'll focus in that or not, but it's 2 cups. I'm going to use 2 cups of rice. I just pour it right in the pressure cooker, and then I run some water and rinse it a few times and drain off the starch. Okay, so I rinsed off the rice. I just kind of keep moving it around my hands. I kind of rub it a little bit under the water. It releases a lot of the starch. The water gets all milky, so I drain it off 2-3 times. And then, yeah, I did 2 cups of rice, so I'm going to put in 2 cups of water. I'm getting that right now. Sorry. So what I do is I just take the same jar, of course I'm tipping it, but I take the same 2 cups of water. So if you're going to do 1 cup of rice, do 1 cup of water. If you're going to do 2 cups of rice, do 2 cups of water. Let me grab the rest of my stuff. Okay, so this is chicken bouillon powder. I buy these over at Walmart. They've got beef. They've got kind of a tomato base one. Anyway, what I do here is for 2 cups of rice, I do you can see how that's heaping, like a heaping teaspoon. This one like you'd eat your cereal with or whatever. I don't think it's that important that you get perfect measurements on anything, but as long as you're close, it seems like it turns out good. And butter. This is what I do with the butter. That's a big chunk of butter. Probably a quarter to a half a cube of butter, just because I like the taste of butter. I'm going to turn this on high. Get out my favorite wooden spoon and give it a stir. And you can do all kinds of stuff with your rice too. I mean, I love putting frozen peas in here because it cooks up really good in there. You could do corn, like a can of corn in your rice. That's always good. I've tried all kinds of stuff, but if you do a big batch of rice like this for the Dalbot, and again, I think Dalbot stands for lentils and rice. So Dalbot probably means lentil beans instead of split peas, but the split peas work really good too. Like I said, you need 1 can of this, 1 bag of these. We'll do it in the pressure cooker too, but hang on, let me grab this phone. Okay, anyway, telemarketer. So you don't have to use butter in here. I did it the other day where all I used was a spoonful of the chicken powder. Turned out perfect. You don't have to have the butter in there, but I always seem to put butter on my rice if I've got it anyway. So putting a little bit of butter in here just kind of helps it from sticking together so much. But it turned out actually better than I thought the other day, and all I used was water and a spoonful of the chicken powder, and the rice was fantastic. So the thing about the old school pressure cookers where you can run them on a gas stove, if you've got a gas stove or of course if your electricity's on, you can run it with your electrical stove. But if you don't, and all you got is a camp stove or something like that, it's still going to work, right? I mean, I use this all the time out camping. Matter of fact, I got 2 of these, a little small aluminum one that was my mother's, and I've got another one exactly like this out in our camp trailer right now because they're just so efficient. It doesn't take a whole lot to get them going, and it's nice to know that you could always take it out on your barbecuer, or you could take it out to your camp trailer or whatever it is, and you can make it work and you can make a meal. Now, like all these people in Texas right now, they got these ice storms and stuff coming in, and I get it that Texas isn't a really cold place, so people aren't prepared. I mean, they don't have the equipment like we do here in Idaho and Utah and places in Colorado that get a lot of snow. So they weren't really expecting it, but what is today? February the 18th, and I just had a grandbaby this morning. Little granddaughter, her name's Olive, and she's beautiful. Anyway, that makes 4, 5 grandkids now. Wow, that's cool. So anyway, it's February 18th, 2021. And in this day and age, these people down in Texas, I mean, they're running around on icy streets trying to find food and trying to heat their homes, and they've shut down the power grid and a bunch of stuff and just caught everybody in a big pickle. But, the thing is, I'm kind of a prepper. Okay, see how this has gone up the pressure, and weight's just starting to rock. Okay, when that happens, I shut the power off and I set the timer for 25. I set it for 25 minutes. And I let it cool down on its own. Pretty much it stops rocking by then anyway. But anyway, I didn't know if you could hear me or not with that going. So I'll be right back. Okay, so it's settled down enough now that I'm still releasing a little bit there, but it'll come to it'll stop rocking. It's just I got an electric stove and it takes it a minute before it stops the heating process. But yeah, 25 minutes. I just set the timer for 25 minutes, and you'll have the most amazing rice when you take that lid off. And just always check it. I mean, if you're sitting there and your 25 minutes comes up, take a wooden spoon or something and go underneath that. See, the more I do that, the more pressure releases. If it's still doing that, and this is up still, because this thing here, it releases pressure too, and then it's got that lock over here on the handle where it won't let you open it if there's pressure in there. But always check that first, just lift it a little bit. If it still hisses like that, there's pressure in the pot and you need to wait a little bit longer. But 25 minutes, usually all the pressure's gone in this pot by 20 minutes. So it's been down, the little lock has dropped to where you could open the lid and everything in 20 minutes. But everybody's pressure cooker will probably be a little bit different, so beware of that. Anyway, I was saying, these people in Texas, they're kind of in a pickle right now. And the thing of it is, you're in February 2021. And this is the part that I don't understand. They say that these people can't go to the store and get their food, and a lot of the stores are probably running out of groceries and stuff because, some of these truckers and stuff probably aren't delivering to a lot of places just because it's treacherous, right? And so you can see how quick and easy it could kind of turn on you. But there's a part of me that's saying, you lived through 2020 and you don't have enough sense to have had a whole bunch of food in your pantry or be able to store some kind of food. I don't understand it. I mean, I'm trying to feel sorry for everybody, but when you've gone through the year that we gone through in 2020 and you're barely cracking the door in 2021 and an ice storm rolls in and people are stuck in their houses for a week, and I get it, it's terrible, right? Because their power's out and they weren't expecting that part of it. But it's hard for me to be sympathetic to people when they've gone through the crisis for a full year and they don't have enough food in their pantry, that they say some people are out going to stores and crawling in their dumpsters and pulling out food that the stores have dated out and throwing it away. Now, in a crisis like that, maybe the stores ought to give it away instead of throw it away. But they probably got their thing too. Their power probably could have gone out in the stores, and maybe some of their meat products and stuff were sitting without refrigeration for a couple of days, and maybe they're toxic. I mean, maybe you don't want to poison anybody either. So as mad as everybody's getting, and they're calling in the cops to guard these dumpsters and stuff to keep people from crawling in there and getting food out. I get it. Everybody's got their own reasons, right? But the thing of what I'm trying to get to here is protect your own family and yourself. You can't just rely on government to come in and save everybody's ass, because we already know how they've handled that this year. There is a lot of people out there starving because they can't go to work, or they've shut them down, or they've lost their businesses, and those businesses might have employed 20 people, and what are they doing? The jobs are scarce and it's tough. Hence the Dow bot. Again, this is why I'm doing this, is because it's cheap and it feeds a lot of people. I mean, you're going to see how big this batch is when we're done. And it's a crazy amount of food for a buck, you know, $1.50, whatever it is. So anyway, bear with me. I'm going to let this go. It's got another 20 minutes. But please go out and figure it out. Even if you've got to camp in your car overnight or something, and just know you've got a really good sleeping bag for everybody in your family that you could lay down on the front room floor or something and cover up. Don't ever throw any clothes away. Put them in a garbage bag and throw them up in your attic if you have to. Blankets and stuff like that. If they're getting old and kind of ratty, you know, if it got down to really cold and the inside of your house is doing nothing more than keeping the snow off your head and rain off you, or the wind from blowing in your face, it still gets cold in the house. So make sure you've got a way to cover up and keep warm, and know you got enough food and a way to prepare it so your kids aren't going hungry, and a way that you could, you know, take some of that snow. You know, I mean, they got a bunch of snow there. Everybody's looking for water, but is anybody thinking they can go out and take a couple shovel loads of that snow and put it in a pot and warm it up and then run it through a filter system or something, just like those little Sawyer mini water filters or something? They have drinkable water. I don't know. I just think that if once you've gone through something like this, I've seen it once before. They had a grid down situation up in New York City, and a bunch of people got caught on the subways, and some of it were underground, and people were like stuck in these tunnels, and they were walking out in the pitch black. And a lot of people argue the point, hey, I got a phone, you know, and I could turn it on or whatever and see my way out. Well, that's not really a dedicated flashlight or anything. So they went a couple weeks without any power, and people were hot, and it was in the middle of summer. And then about a month later, after all this, everybody's complaining about stuff, and the grid went down again, and they shut down all this electricity again, and people are bitching again, and they're like, we can't see, we don't know where anything is. And I'm thinking, so you went through it for 2 weeks and you didn't buy any candles. You did not buy a flashlight. That would have been the first thing on my list. And a month later, this stuff goes down again, and everybody's running around like, we don't know what to do in the dark. I don't know. Anyway, I'm off my rant now, making myself sick listening to me talk. So anyway, I'll give it another 18 minutes and we'll pull this off and stir it. Okay, so we only got 8 minutes left, but I wanted to show you this. It's about ready to drop. This is the pressure inside that pot. This is just there it goes. That's the lock for the handle, so you can't turn it to open it. So these newer ones like this, they actually have that safety feature where it won't allow you to open it with a bunch of pressure in there, but always lift that. You know, don't use I mean, I do because I've done it a million times, but until you're used to it, just take a spoon. It doesn't have to be a wooden spoon. It can be anything, you know, butter knife or whatever. Just lay it underneath there, lift it up. If you don't see any hissing, then you can take this piece completely off, set it to the side. That's hot. Now, the plastic piece on top, you know, won't burn you, but you touch that thing, that metal's hot as hell. So beware of that. And any little kids watching this video, don't play with the stove unless your mom and dad's helping you with this stuff. Hate to see anybody get hurt. But yeah, see, we've got 6 minutes left. The pressure's completely gone, and so it'll be ready to go in another 6 minutes. But inside that pot, even without the pressure, that rice is hot, and it's still in there kind of cooking itself. And I do give it 25 minutes, and it's like a good texture. It's like almost perfect rice mixture for me. Okay, so it looks like we got about 3 minutes left. I was just gonna say, so you realize that when I turned that stove on high to get that get this weight to where it came up to pressure and it started rocking and releasing pressure, I shut the stove off. And now this whole time, that rice has been in there kind of cooking on its own power, right? I mean, I don't know. It might have took 2-3 minutes before that pot came up to pressure. So I'm actually only using the energy from the stove for about 3 minutes. Then I shut it off. And this is cooking that whole batch of rice. Now, when I do the same thing with this, with the split peas, I put water in the pot, and granted, it takes a little bit longer to come up to pressure because I might put, instead of 2 cups of water and 2 cups of rice, I put a whole pound bag of these beans in there, but I use about 8 cups of water. So you got a lot of fluid in there that takes a minute to get all that boiling, because it takes the boil to generate the pressure in the pot. So it does take a little bit more on that, more time to do it. And plus I throw this in too. So I'm putting in about 8 cups of water, and a whole can of this. It's got juice and stuff in there. So it takes a while to heat all that up. But once it comes to that stage where it's built up all that pressure and that weight starts rocking, I do the same thing as I did before. I shut the power off and I let it go for 25 minutes, half an hour. And everything's cooked when you open the lid. Now, if that's not conserving energy, I mean, I know when you run the pressure cooker, it'll say to bring that weight to a slow rock, which you're gradually turning your burner down to next to nothing anyway. But I find a lot of these recipes, I critique them myself a little bit just because it's easier to know that it's going to cook on its own. It's like you could bring your water to a boil, throw in your pasta, stir it, and shut it off and let it cook on its own power. You don't have to sit and run that burner the whole time. It doesn't necessarily have to be boiling the whole time. It could just sit there and simmer, put the lid on it, and walk away for 10 minutes or 7 minutes and come back and check it. Okay, so there's our 25 minutes are up. Of course, you know there's no pressure because I took the thing off. But if you're standing on this side, always open and tip that way. See that hot steam roll out of there and the water and stuff? Make sure you hold it over the pot so the water goes back in the pot. I usually just put a towel over here to keep the lid on. Look, rice. And I just give it a good stir. I kind of fluff it a little bit. I'm going to use the same pressure cooker for the split peas. So I'm going to have to just let this rice cool off a minute, and I'm going to put it in like a big plastic bowl. But yeah, that rice is done. I don't know what to tell you about it other than it's delicious. I mean, that is probably the best rice I've ever had. And it took 2-3 minutes on the stove bringing it up to pressure, and then just 25 minutes of your time waiting for it to cook on its own power. So you can do that with a wood burning stove or a propane stove or anything like that. I mean, I don't know. I know that rant that I just went on was probably a little bit harsh, and I'm probably just doing it to wake everybody up a little bit that's watching this video. And I primarily do these videos for my family members because I want there to be some kind of, something they can look back on and say, oh yeah, I want to be able to help my kids. If this gets out to anybody else, take it for what it's worth. I'm no professional on any level of cooking or anything like that, but please get yourself and everything in order in case anything happens. I mean, nobody in Texas was expecting this, but they are expecting food shortages, and people have been stuck on the freeways and in great big lines trying to get free food and given to them and stuff because they have lost jobs and stuff. And I'm not picking on those people when I'm saying that they're jumping into dumpsters trying to get food. if that's the people doing it, they've been without money. They haven't had any food to stockpile. But you got to be smart when you do get money. You can't just run out and buy a big screen TV when you get your stimulus. You should buy like as much food as you can and get yourself squared away, because I don't think there's anything worse out there. And you could probably ask some people in some third world countries that have their children are starving and they're watching it happen. I mean, there couldn't be anything worse. So just take it for what it's worth. I'm trying to help here, but I think, if people get all watered up over it, that they went out and they bought something that wasn't something that could help them out later. If they went out and bought the newest game or something they could play on their TV or their PS3 or whatever it is, or iWatch or iPhone or whatever it is, if you're there and you get a stimulus check and you buy a toy and you're going hungry the next week, good luck eating the toy. So anyway, and if you've got kids, you're an adult, it's time to be an adult. Make sure you put them first, your family first, and make sure you got enough weighed to provide for them, fix something, whatever it is. Have all your ducks in a row, know what you're going to do, and have a plan. If the house got cold and you had to find another way to keep warm, you want to be the adult and know how to do it. Anyway, I went back on my rant again, didn't I? Anyway, I'm going to let this cool off, put it in a bowl, and I'll be back in a sec. Okay, so I got the rice out of there and into a bowl, and I'm using just one of these, like a Rubbermaid plastic bowl, just so I have something to put a lid on. I don't know if you can get an idea about how much rice is here, but it's a lot. I mean, it's if you're feeding a family of 4, you're gonna have plenty for sure, because this is the big bowl. It's not one of these. I mean, that's, these are good size. It's the big, the big helmet. It's not the little one. So anyway, big bowl of rice, probably feed, I don't know, four easy. I mean, and I eat a lot, and so I'm saying it'll feed 4 of me. Okay, so on these split peas, what I like to do with this is you can put them on a counter. I always kind of inspect them like they say to do with any hard bean, is kind of inspect it. I just pour them in the pot super slow and kind of look at the pot and make sure that you're not getting some pebbles in there, any kind of rocks or funky colored ones or whatever I'll pick out, because I'd look at it, make sure you're not, give it a good swirl and look around, make sure it looks all good. You don't want to serve somebody a rock. That wouldn't be as much fun. But yeah, I pick through it and I look real close and make sure there's not anything looking a little bit goofy. And then I rinse it exactly like I do my rice. This batch looks pretty good. Generally with beans, I'll put them like on a countertop and I'll kind of sift through it and make sure I don't have any rocks or anything. But if I see anything that looks a little off, I just take it out, throw it away. Anyway, I'll rinse these and I'll be right back. Okay, so I rinsed the split peas, looked them over good. I'm giving them a clean bill of health. I like the yellow look more than the green. It's more appetizing to me. But when you use a full package of these split peas, 1 pound pack, and 1 can of any of the tomatoes and onions or garlic or whatever you want, that's going to be so much food I mean, I did 2 cups of rice, right? And then this is 8 cups of water, because they have to kind of rehydrate and stuff. And I like mine a little bit soupier. And it seems like every time I do this and then I put the leftovers in the fridge the next day, when I pull them out of the refrigerator, they are thick, man. I mean, this stuff is like paste when you get done, because those little split peas, I'm gonna get this going. Anyway, that's as simple as it is. When they go through the pressure cooker, even when you cook them on a stovetop, they turn. I mean, if you've never had split pea and ham soup, that's exactly what you're getting here. It's just more of a tomato base, and of course it's got the onions in it because that's what I put in this time, but I've tried it a bunch of different ways and it's good every single time. But this part makes so much that, I mean, you're gonna, with this much rice, that's 2 cups of rice with 2 cups of water and 1 heaping teaspoon of that chicken powder. And that chicken powder probably is straight MSG. I'm not saying it's great for you, but it sure tastes good. And I don't overdo it because, you know, a lot of people might be watching sodium levels or whatever. But, you know, I do the 1 just to kind of give it some flavor, and it's really good where it's at. You could do this without any chicken flavoring or beef flavoring, you know, with your rice. But I'm telling you right now, this amount of the dal, I think bot means rice, but if this is the dal part, I'll bet you'd have to make 4 batches of this rice, because you pour this over the top of your rice. And I don't put any more seasoning or anything in there. I let people do that on their own. If they think it needs a little salt and pepper or garlic powder or onion powder or whatever, they can put it in after. So this one here, I just kind of leave alone. I use the 1 can of the tomatoes, 1 pound bag of the split peas. I just kind of keep stirring it so it doesn't get kind of stuck on the bottom until it comes up to pressure. When this starts to boil, I'll put the lid on it, let it come up to pressure to where it's steaming and spitting on the top, and then I just shut it off. I let it go for half an hour. And then it's ready to go. Take the lid off, stir it up, and then put it on top of the rice. You know, a couple spoonfuls or whatever, a ladle, something that, you know, you can actually get some of it, you know, in a big old fat spoon. Take a couple spoonfuls of that, but this goes about 4 times as far as the rice. So, you know, if you got a bigger family and your pressure cooker, if you want to, I mean, I do 3 cups of rice and 3 cups of water, and that's a huge batch for us. But say you had to do a couple batches of the rice, say you had 8 kids and they're all eating machines, you know, you might have to do a couple batches of rice and get a couple of these big bowls full of rice. You can put it in the fridge. It warms up so easy and fast the next day. It's stupid simple. You just throw it back in the pot and give it a swirl and throw a little extra water in there to kind of, because that's what ends up happening. For some reason, it kind of gets thicker overnight, and you have to kind of dilute it down the next day with some water to make it soupy if you like that gravy consistency. And that's pretty much what the way I see everybody eating it is, and it's delicious. So yeah, if you've got, I mean, this much stuff, me and my wife could probably eat on it for 2 weeks. It goes that far, because you could just keep diluting it down and keep making batches of rice as you go. But yeah, super long ways. I'll figure it up what I'm into it, and put a price tag on it and see how many meals we can kind of get out of it, just to give you some kind of idea. But a lot for the money. I don't think you can beat it. Be back in a minute. Okay, she's a boiling. So what I do at this point, I just put the lid on. I don't know if that's the right way to do it or not. You probably should put the lid on and make it boil, but you see the steam's coming out of it. And make sure I'm on the burner the right way. And then this little thing is going to pop up. See, it just went up. And there's pressure behind it now. So that's your lock for the lid. And that one there's starting to do its thing too. So I give it a few minutes. I got it up on high now to get it start boiling, and it's building up pressure in the pot. And with that much fluid in that pot, if you set your timer for a half an hour, you probably will have pressure under this because there's so much fluid in there. It holds the heat longer than that rice. And so you can actually just take it over to the sink and put it in the sink and run cold water over the top of this to cool it off if you wanted to open it up, at 30 minutes. Or you can just gradually lift the weight up and release, a little bit of pressure out of that at a time. We'll see how long it takes to kind of come down on its own, because it doesn't really overcook because it's already overcooked, because it just kind of falls apart. It's more like a soup. But that's the way people over like in Nepal apparently survive. They don't have any money. They don't really have a good meat source probably half the time. They might get some fish once in a while, but they're hurting for protein. And if you're just going to eat straight rice all the time, there's no protein in it, but there's a lot in the split peas. So, you've pretty much boiled out all the vitamin C out of your tomatoes, the can of tomatoes that you're putting in there, because once it hits like the temperature of boiling, it kills all the vitamin C. But there's probably a few things in there that are good for you nutritious wise in that can of onions and tomatoes, but pretty much it just makes it taste good. So I'm going to let this come up to pressure and I'll be back. Okay, it's literally a minute later. This is starting to wobble and lose some of its pressure out of that top. So at this point, I just shut it off. And it's going to take a few minutes for that to settle down for sure. So I'll come back and talk to you too. I'll have to talk over this. Okay, so the pressure's down enough that it's stopping the rocking. But as you can see, super hot. There's still a lot of pressure in that pot. So you just let it go. I set the timer for 30 minutes because, like I said, I don't think it matters a whole lot if you went over 30 minutes or whatever. So you could just let it cool on its own. I don't know how long that's going to take. I'm going to kind of keep my eye on it and find out. But I took that rice out of the bowl and I put it in just regular like cereal bowls. Okay, so I filled them up pretty good. I'm going to put one there, one there. I mean, that's a good serving. And one there. And one there, and one here. So we got 5. We got 5 helpings of rice, and that's on 2 cups of rice. 2 cups of rice, 2 cups of water, and 1 teaspoon of the chicken powder, and that gives you 5. So, I mean, if you needed more than that. Oh, look, it's my wife. I'll have to call her back. Anyway, gives you 5 servings. If they need to be bigger than that, I don't know, 4. I don't know, but you still have to have room to put this stuff on too. So, I'm just saying. I think it'll do 5 good servings. That would, or two two great big honking ones. I don't know. I don't know how much you're eating, but I'm a pretty big eater, and I could probably eat two of those. So, because it's so good too. It's funny how simple it is, and how cheap it is, and how much I really like it. So I'm going to give this about a half an hour, and I'll come back and see if the pressure's off. Okay, so it's almost the timer. I set it for 30 minutes. Um, there's hardly any pressure in this at all. I mean, it's got a little bit, but it's not like a ton. There's the timer. That was 30 minutes. I wonder if I ought to show you how to cool these things off if you wanted to. I'm sure it's all done. Let me flip you around to the sink. Let's see. Hope that'll get that. Move some stuff. Okay, so what I do is I take the whole pressure cooker over to the sink. Like that. And you got pressure in there. Then what you do is you just run some cold water on the top of it. Watch that thing go down. There it goes. Pop. Okay. So just that quick, you can cool off these pressure cookers. It didn't take very much water to do it. Then I just bring this back over the stove. Hang on. We're going for a ride. So, you can take the pressure away by doing that. If you're like, okay, I don't want to overcook something. Like if you wanted something that wanted to keep some of its texture, like say you're doing some chicken soup, or I think I'm going to do that in the next day or two. And you don't want your vegetables falling apart, then you can cool it down that way. You can cook it for a certain time frame, and not cook it too long to where the potatoes turn to mash or mush or whatever. And so, anyway, yeah, smells good. I'll give it a stir. I don't know if you can see that or not. You can see the tomatoes floating on top. But this stuff here, when you give it a stir, will change. Pretty much all those peas are all cooked down to next to nothing. So I just give it a stir. Make sure it's ready to go. Like I said, I like mine a little bit soupier, and the next day when you're eating it, because you're gonna be eating this for days, because it goes a long ways. So prepare to give some. I mean, try it out, make sure it tastes good to you. But this will be something that you can share with your neighbors or whatever, because it goes a long ways. Or just plan on putting it in your fridge. Like I said, it goes forever. So what we do is we take a bowl of your rice and then just put on a couple of spoons of this stuff, like that. And that's pretty much it. I mean, that's how easy it is. Big ladle full. If you don't like a whole lot, just do that. I'm going to show you. I'm going to dish all these up. I don't know what I'm going to do with them, but I hate wasting food. But this will give you some kind of idea. I mean, when I put 2 spoonfuls of this stuff on there, I mean, that's a lot. It's soaking it clear through. And I mean, try it first, make sure maybe you only want 1 spoonful, and you can kind of pick around on it or something. But okay, that did 5. Okay, and look at that pot. I mean, there's just a huge amount of stuff left in there, and I don't know. Let's see. Let's figure it out. So if I did 2 spoons per bowl. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 6. Grab another bowl. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 in a little bit. So so that'll do another 8 bowls on top of the 5 we just did. That's hot as hell. So, you know, that's a lot of food. I mean, granted, you'd have to have a lot more rice, right? I mean, we did 5 bowls. We got another 8 bowls sitting here. So 13 bowls of soup. Is that right? 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Let's see. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Yeah. 13 bowls of soup. Rice and so the Dow bought 13 servings. You would have to make, you know, another batch and a half of rice to do it, but it goes a long ways. The bag of yellow split peas are the more expensive ones. The green split peas I can get for $1.19, 1 pound bag. The yellow ones, I've seen them for like $1.39. I've seen them for $1.29 at like Walmart. So if you figured $1.50 into the beans, I was buying the tomatoes with the onions on a case lot sale for 49 cents. So you're into it a whole $2 between the beans and the tomatoes, and then you're into a 2 pound bag of rice from the dollar stores $1. So that's probably enough rice. A 2 pound bag of rice is, you know, 2 1 pound bags or 1 2 pound bag of rice is probably a good combination to take care of all of this, putting 2 scoops of the beans and tomatoes on each bowl, and you could feed 13 people. The stuff is just amazing tasting. It's good. And I could see how, you know, we've ate it for a few days in a row. The people in Nepal apparently eat it like 2 to 3 times a day. Now, I don't know, I've never been to Nepal. That's what I've heard on other videos and stuff, but you know, we've ate it for 2 or 3 days, and it's not like you get sick of it. It's kind of weird that way. And I'm sure if you mixed it up a little bit with something else, you know, you could even get by as a staple, or do it once a day or something like that for a week. I guess if you get hungry, it wouldn't matter, would it? But that's Dalbot. It's quick and easy, and you've got tons of leftovers, and it will feed 13 on, what do we figure, $1 for rice and $1.50 for a bag of beans, and 50 cents for the can of stuff. So you're into it $3. $3, you can feed 13 people. Anyway, that's the end of this video, and all my ranting. Anyway, be prepared for the worst. Always be able to take care of your family, and try it out and see if you like it. And if you need to critique it a little bit, maybe you need something else in there. Maybe if you're like, hey, I want carrots in mine or something, maybe you ought to buy a can of carrot for every batch of soup or something. I don't know. But make sure you got enough of it on hand. It's probably the cheapest way of feeding yourself for a long period of time. And the beans and the rice will last forever. Put them in them buckets like that shit hits the fan bucket video that I do. Just put it in there, and if you got rice and beans and them cans in there, the mice can't get to your rice and beans because they're in a bucket. You can stack the buckets high, get the easy off lids, make it easy on yourself instead of regular 5-gallon bucket lids because they're a pain in the ass to get off and on. And then, yeah, if things start to go south, fill them buckets up with water and restack them. Then you got enough water to cook your rice and your beans with, and you've got everything right there. I'm not going to say I'd want to live on this for the rest of my life because I wouldn't, but if you had to, apparently you can. So you get your protein and carbs and whatever you need in that. But it's a good hot meal. Give it a shot. Get a pressure cooker and figure that out, because it'll save you a ton, and it's a good pot for almost anything else. Even if you're just boiling eggs or whatever, you can use that pot for boiling corn, for corn on the cob, or vegetables, or making soup. And if you want to use the pressure cooker part, you see how fast it was and how efficient. So until next time, thanks for putting up with my long ass video, but it's all on one this time. Be aware of your surroundings. Remember where you came from. Remember how to get back there. We'll see you.